Welcome and thank you for joining us on this conversation on social inclusion in education in Cambodia. My name is Glen and I'm joined today by Dr. Jennifer Byrne, who's done some research in disability in Cambodia, Sarakk Rith, who is actually the education lead, and Somphors, who is project manager for leadership and learning. Let me start by making a first statement that all children in Cambodia have a right to an education, and it's an education that provides an opportunity. So it's not just attending schools, it's about learning, participating, and getting an experience that everybody else in Cambodia should be able to achieve. So today's discussion is an opportunity to talk about inclusion and what it means in practice and why it matters. So I'd first like to ask a question to Sarakk or Somphors in relation to SeeBeyondBorders Cambodia and the type of programs that it provides in the education space. So if I could just pass on to one of them.
Thank you, Glenn. SeeBeyondBorders, or SBB, is the education non-governmental organizations work in education sectors in Cambodia. We are working in rural and remote areas where the resources are limited. So we work with teachers, school leaders, in order to strengthen their capacities so that they can better lead the schools and providing lessons better to the students.
And how do you fit in this area?
So for me, I'm working as a project manager, leadership and learning. So I work closely with school leaders. I help them develop their school learning improvement plan, which is like the annual plan where they put down the priority activities that they need to do in a year to improve the students' learning outcome. And it's very important because we believe that if a school or if we want the student to do well in school, we have to work with teachers, work with school leaders so that everything is going well in the same direction.
You did some research on social inclusion in Cambodia. What were some of the key points that came out of your research?
Yeah, well, first of all, I guess like SBB was so useful to me and so helpful as a starting point for my research that I feel really lucky to get to have this discussion with you guys. But when I was researching in Cambodia, what I was interested in was some of the attitudes and mindsets that shape how we think about disability, which is quite specific to any country and any given context. But in Cambodia, it's really shaped by how we think about religion and karma and the way that people are involved in different sectors of society. It's sort of what I found on disability in Cambodia was just that it's a whole society approach. The way we think about disability is more than just in schools. It's related to communities and parents and teachers, and that's where the education piece, I think, comes into it, that if students are all learning together in the community, it makes the world and it makes education more accessible for everybody. So really education, I think, was a really central point in my research, and something that I'm really glad that we can explore a little bit more.
My understanding is some of your role in Cambodia has been providing training and support. What was some of the, in that training, that came out in relation to people's understanding of what social inclusion was?
I think social inclusion is a relatively new concept, not just in Cambodia, like for us in Ireland as well. It's something that's constantly evolving and changing as our understanding of students and society grows. So I think in Cambodia and in some of the training that we had in the different provinces, the understanding of disability is really good. Like, people are interested in inclusion. There's a lot of will towards inclusion. It's very strong, which is great. Like, it's such a good starting point to be at. But the implementation, I think, in a lot of cases is where it gets lost, where we're very keen to include people with disabilities in all areas of society and in school. in particular, but how to do it, I think, is the biggest question that we have. And we've been exploring a few different strategies and ways to do this, but it's an area I think that's ever evolving at the moment and that we'll continue to be working on into the future, realistically.
How would you find social inclusion being put into practice? From following on from what Jennifer just said, put in practice in relation to the work that you do at this particular point in time. How is it actually implemented? What have you found when you've actually gone down this path?
So for me, because I'm a project manager, so I provide training to school leaders, and there are also other project managers who provide training to teachers, specifically grade 1 to grade 3. What we found out is that similar to what Jenny referred to, so they know about disability, they are interested in it, but for us as a government, we don't have the expertise to deal with it. Like we have support from government as well, because we have the MOIS student assessment, where there are questions that the teacher can do with the student to identify if they have a disability or not. But there's still some gap, because there are some gray area where it's very hard to identify and point out what type of disability a student has. And then also, if we identify student A or student B as a student with disability, what's next? Because for our workshop, it's only revolving around what is disability, what are the types of different disability, but we don't really have a clear solution of how we are going to tackle every type of disability at school. So now it's just like an inclusive classroom where all boys and girls can get equal access to education. But in terms of disabilities, there's still some gray areas around that. Yeah.
How have you found that support to teachers when you've actually been training social inclusion to teachers in a way that they would have to practically apply it in the classroom? Have they been embracing? Have they understood the concept effectively? Do you feel they're ready to go, or is there still gaps that still need to be covered?
So in terms of practice in the real classroom, I think there's still gaps, because you know how in a classroom in Cambodia it's very large, so there are up to like between 30 to 50 students in the class, and there's only one teacher. So if we imagine that, it's like a lot of work for the teachers. And it's for our education system, it's mainstreaming, so we cannot provide special need or special education to certain students. So our focus is really on the majority of the students, and like it or not, sometimes there might be a few students who are left out, because the population is a lot for the teachers.
So what would be still some of the barriers, say, for a child who wanted to attend a school?
If he or she wants to attend a school, it depends on the family, because like Jenny mentioned, it's related to the culture, the religion that we are born in. So some might view it as a karmic sin or something like that, or we need to fix the child because he or she is having this and this difficulty or something like that. So first, it depends on the family. It depends on their economic situation, because some family who are wealthy, they would be able to assist the student to a special school, because we do have a special school in Cambodia, but it's very limited. I think across the whole country, there are only 6 schools available, or 6 high school, I have to say. And it also related to the family status, because if the family is too busy making a living, they cannot assist the student, because if someone is in a wheelchair, they need one extra person to be with the child, or they need the actual wheelchair to have the student. So it's very challenging. Yeah.
Have you found this in practice as well to reinforce this issues like disability and poverty and the location that the schools are in, that these contribute in a way that make inclusion more difficult?
Definitely, Glen. I think based on our experience, because we are targeting the rural and remote schools because we want to be inclusive, and we acknowledge that in the rural schools the resources are limited. So the students who are based in the urban area, they would be able to access more to resources. The education itself, or the parents in the urban area may be more educated compared to, or they understand better about rights of the children, and they are more committed to education. Where compared to the school we are working with, majority of them, of the parents, uneducated or have low educations. So, and also there are some past mentions already that their financial situation is quite difficult, so they would prioritize other things. But as Somphors mentions a lot already, our approach is to create role models. So what it means is that if we can work with teachers so that the teachers can make classroom more inclusive and the children with disabilities feel included, feel belong to the kind of classrooms, then they create role models for other parents so that the parents can start changing their mindset by saying that they would refer to somebody in particular, saying that look at that family, look at the children, they have similar type of disability, for example, but they are able to go to school to access education. So that kind of role model would start changing the mindset. So that's something we are trying to do based on our resources. So we want to start with teachers, school leaders, making school environment inclusive for the children when they come.
And I think as well, everybody benefits from inclusion. So when we're talking about the whole communities and the parents, if classrooms and if education is more inclusive of everybody benefits. Even students who maybe aren't identified as having a disability, they benefit from having a projector in the room, or maybe they benefit from having new readers and materials. And as, like you were saying about the role models, as parents become more aware and more involved, it kind of ripples out further into the community. So personally, I know I'm biased, but personally I think inclusive education really can only be a good thing for everybody, realistically.
What can inclusive education look like then in a school currently? So what would we likely experience if we went to a school now and we were looking at it from an inclusive education? What would be some of the strengths and gaps that we would identify?
I would say, Somphors have already mentioned earlier, that the gaps is the understandings, the knowledge around assessing the disability, the screening process. After the screening process is how can teachers support students with different types of disabilities. For example, if the teachers may identify any particular student with intellectual disabilities, then the question is how can a teachers what kind of strategy teacher can use in the classroom to accommodate those students to learn in the classroom together with other people. So that would be the gaps, and also the mindset in general, the belief that the student is able to learn together. That would be the important things as I see as a gap, even though inclusive education or inclusion itself has been spread for a while, but the level of understandings and the belief in that kind of model that every student, every child can learn is somehow a grey area.
Is this areas where you've been providing support to teachers, assisting them in a belief that this is an opportunity, I can actually provide this level of support. It's not something where I can't do this, you're changing that belief.
Exactly, Glen. Somphors can join me as well. So we are trying to address the belief, because the belief means very much. When people start to change their belief or mindset, some people may say, if they believe in that children can learn, then they would find ways to do it. But if they don't believe in it, it's quite challenging. So we are trying to address the root cause from the real, even though it takes time, it takes longer time, but that's something we wanted to do.
That's why we have a specific training. It's on growth and fixed mindset. So in that particular workshop, we raise awareness on the different types of mindsets and how to grow our mindset, because everyone grew up in different culture and different family environment. But we make sure that they understand about it and that they understand that mindset can change. So if we identify ourselves as a person with a fixed mindset, that it's okay, we can change it, and it's going to be a growth mindset as long as we are aware of our action, aware of what we are doing. And that's what we are trying to do with our school leaders as well, and also teachers. So we are trying to inspire and encourage them that, hey, it's okay, a student with disability, they also can learn, right? So, but what the thing that we can do is related to, first, it's the infrastructure. So we build ramps for each classroom, for the bathroom, so that it's easy for the student to access, and also like starting to equip themselves with the knowledge and a bit of a skill to support students with learning disabilities.
Thank you for that. Who is still missing out on education? From a social inclusion perspective, so are there still barriers in Cambodia where people are having difficulty still to... You mentioned earlier that they're building up teachers' confidence for disability and resources. You mentioned resources. Is there any other barriers? Are schools equipped to fully implement social inclusion?
Yeah, I think there's still a gaps there. When you talk about who's still left out, students from family with financial difficulty would still behind either, or left out from the system because of their family situation is one thing. And the school with limited resources and training, that they are not so much aware of the strategies that they can apply into the classroom. So I would say still those who are living in the rural and remote area still struggling in getting into this kind of inclusive education.
I noticed in the census that there was data that showed that at grade 1 there was almost a 50-50 representation of male and female attending. But by year 12, two things came out. Grade 12, only 26% of all students who started actually finished. So 26 out of 100 only got to year 12. And out of that 26, it was overwhelmingly male.
That was exactly what I was going to point out as well, that I think there is still a difference between boys and girls. And I would say it's true everywhere across the board globally that girls do better in school, technically, than boys do. But when we talk about disability, girls tend to drop out or be kept back from school more often than boys. And like even we see it in Ireland, there's huge differences between girls and boys. So is it the same or is it similar in Cambodia?
I think it would be similar like that too. Yeah.
But I think like I think that it's decreasing, and like it's true in certain areas, because like I think that in the city areas there are less of that, but at the remote areas I think there's still the cultural norm where women or girls have to drop out of school and then get married and then raise a family, while boys are still expected to do more in school. So I think that still applies to some places, but not all. So I would say. Yeah.
And especially for girls with disabilities as well, I think it's even more intense, I suppose, because they have the issues, I suppose, of having a disability that they have to contend with, and also being a girl and the societal expectations, I think, that come with those things maybe make the issues more complex. So I think really for us and generally, I think that's an area that needs more research and more study, because we still don't really understand what the major differences are and how that influences education. But like you said, it's certainly something to work towards and that we're trying to understand a little bit better.
But I think like from the schools that we work with, I don't think that there's a huge difference between boys and girls, because the number of students who dropped out are mainly because they have to go with their parents to a different province or different country for work, for financial stability. So it doesn't really identify where gender is coming in for that point. But both gender still drop out and let go. And I think this also have an effect on a later generation where because like poverty is in the loop. So and then like if you are in poverty and then you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the education, and then you are not likely to send your kids if they have disability to school. So it's just gonna go in a cycle.
You highlighted some areas that this could be quite difficult for teachers. What are other areas that teachers have been struggling with in relation to social inclusion? And this may be more noticeable from what you're saying, rural and remote areas.
I think it's related to their, I think I'm gonna go back to their skills, because like we have reiterate before, teachers and school leaders, they in Cambodia, so they would join the 2 years teacher training, but after that there's no more training, especially for school leader. They don't really like join any other training to be a school leader or anything. They just like, if they got appointed, then they got appointed. But if they are lucky, they are going to be NGO who work with them on certain things, like SBBI, work with teachers and school leaders to improve the quality of education or something like that. So it's going to go back to their capacity. They understand that they're students with disability, but again, what can they do? What's next for them? They don't really have the skill to assist those students. And for instance, if a student is slow in learning, they might not think that that's a disability at all. They might just think that the student is having too many absences at school, so that's why he or she cannot catch up with the rest of the class, or it's because they didn't really take into thought like maybe the student cannot see or cannot really hear, so that's why he or she is not doing well. So they don't really like they don't have the skill and they don't have enough experience to really dig deep and identify things like that. Yeah.
What are small differences, small changes that can make a big difference? Is it more resources? Is it more?
Yeah, I think we can, not just we, but like they can also join other short courses or trainings from other NGO. So maybe promote on how to assist certain type of student with disability or things like that. Yeah. Or like provide special need to a particular student.
If I could just conclude by just asking, what are some of the things we've learned through this conversation, or that we would like to add in right now?
I want to join Somphors regarding what could make difference. One thing first of all is about being aware of the challenges that a student with disability may encounter, and from that, teachers, and also expose the teachers or parents, in our case, expose teachers to different teaching techniques or to include the children so in the classroom. I think that would allow teacher, because sometimes as a teacher by myself, I used to teach by myself. I mean, we care students as a teacher, we care students, but the problem is when you don't know how, because you limited the exposures, so it's quite stressful. Like you want to help, but you don't know how, let's say thinking outside, we try to think of outside of the box, but if we don't really expose to something, it's hard for us to develop the kind of skills. So something that could make difference is that exposing teachers to different techniques to understand better about that kind of issue, that area. So they can start thinking or even elaborating into the classroom setting. Yeah.
I think what I have learned is actually exactly what you said, is the hope. This is actually a very hopeful endeavor. The teachers care so much about their students, and they want to learn, and they really want to evolve their teaching practice, and that there are so many organizations like SBB, like for us to be sitting here and having this conversation even, I think provides a lot of hope that we're moving in a really positive direction, and that inclusion is on the agenda. Things are starting to change, and social inclusion is such a big topic for us to be discussing now. I think what I take away from this is very hopeful, and obviously we have a lot more work to do. There's a lot of milestones to pass in years to come, but it's so positive that we're at such a good starting point, and that there's so much fertile ground ahead of us. I think I'm particularly pleased with what we're taking away from this.
My one thing to take away from this is to keep talking about it, to keep taking actions, even small step. So the more we talk, the more it reaches to more people. Keep saying until people taking actions, and then when more people taking action, then the issue will be addressed. Yeah, ultimately.
I'm just gonna reiterate what he mentioned, because like talking and spreading words and raising awareness is very important, and I hope that the words get into reach to the parents, because they are really the front line of the students, because it's their I don't want to say responsibility, but it's kind of like, because they are the one who take care of their kids, and they are the one who send the kids to school. So if they in the first place they don't send their kids to school, then the teachers and the school leader cannot really actually identify the students. So I think it's very important, and it's the first step that we all have to take. So the parents have to change their mindset and be open just a bit more, and then they send more students, they send more kids to school, and then that when we start to see more changes, and then the teachers and the school leader can assist, and everyone would be walking toward a more inclusive environment.
From our conversation today, SBB Cambodia has demonstrated the commitment to working with schools, students, teachers and their local communities in pursuing social inclusion through Cambodia. And in that regard, I'd like to say thank you for all of them joining us here today and sharing this experience with you. Thank you.